Now, there are other ways of treating depression besides talk therapy and medications. These are more on, can be viewed more on the experimental side, but some of them are quite effective. There is light therapy that people do, and that actually is very good for people who have what's called seasonal affective disorder, which is a form of depression that comes from a lack of light that takes place in the wintertime. But it may be helpful for other people as well. So there's light therapy. There is exercise, which is very helpful for people. By doing exercise, you increase the circulation in your body, which means you increase circulation in the brain. Helps the brain to function better to overcome depression. Now, smell is also very important for overcoming depression. Research has shown that when people smell fresh bread, or they smell vanilla, or even flowers, it helps to lift them out of a mood. It helps to lift the depression some. It's not the cure for clinical depression, but it can be helpful, especially for the blues, for lifting people up. Other ways of working with depression are communicating with your friends. Depression can also be anger turned inward. We protect other people from our anger, and we turn it inward and we attack our mood with depression. So if we learn to express our anger in a healthy way and become clear with our expression of anger, we can also help to lift the depression that we might be feeling. Depression also is a sense of cutoff from our environment and from our world. If we go out into the environment and we create a connection with others, it can also help us lift out of depression. So instead of isolating and pulling ourselves away, we want to go out into the world. And volunteering can be a very helpful thing for helping people to pull themselves out of depression. You volunteer, you get out of being so focused on yourself, and you start focusing out on the world around you, becoming more involved, increasing your social contact, increasing your social network, and you find that you start pulling yourself out of depression as well. Proper nutrition is also very important. Reducing the amount of carbohydrates that you eat. Carbs can also create a sense of depression when you have the sugar drop that's later. So increasing protein, reducing carb intake can also be helpful. And there are a slew of supplements that people can take that have been found to be very helpful for people in lifting depression. So you would want to check out with your pharmacist or nutritionist or physician about what supplements might be helpful for lifting depression as well. Another thing that helps pull people out of depression is checking their automatic thoughts. Oftentimes we have the thoughts that we give ourselves feed us something negative, and when it feeds it to us, we have a negative loop that's happening, and in that negative loop we begin to feel badly, and then we feed ourselves more negative thoughts, making us feel even worse, feed ourselves more negative thoughts, and it becomes a cycle. So if you can stop the negative feedback that you're giving yourself, change that thought, make it more positive, find out where you're doing it, stop that thought, and give yourself more pleasant thoughts, schedule pleasant activities to be doing. That is also a way of pulling yourself out of depression. In fact, humor can be a great way of getting through depression. When we can see the humor in something, it means we're starting to come out of depression. People who are depressed don't generally feel a sense of humor. Their sense of imagination has stopped. They don't play in their heads anymore, at least in a creative way. So creative play has stopped. Once they can start getting back into humor and feeling humor, they begin to heal from this experience of depression. You know, in humor, the truth oftentimes resides very close to it. So it allows us with humor to see what some of the truth is. And when we get a sense of truth in our lives, it also helps us to gain a sense of control of our world. Now we see what's causing us the issue, and when we see it, we can start dealing with it. Another thing that we can do to help pull ourselves out of depression is separate out facts from feelings. Sometimes we blur facts and feelings together. For instance, someone says, well, I just feel stupid. And they mistake that for a fact. The feeling is that they're feeling stupid. Okay, that might be legitimate. But the fact is that they're not. But if they start associating it with a fact, that starts to bring depression on. That starts to make us feel anxious and depressed, and we start sliding down that slope. So what we want to do is we want to separate out feelings from facts. And a good way of doing that is writing down on a piece of paper, separate it with a line. On one side, write all the feelings that you're having. On the other side, write down all the facts. By separating it out, you begin to see, wait a minute, I might be feeling stupid, but I'm not a stupid person. By getting that understanding, that also helps to pull us out of a feeling of depression. We get more reasonable with our thinking. For more information on depression, you can go onto my website at LAtherapist.com, and for self-help, you can check out my other website, which is hypnocd.com. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.